Hey guys, welcome back to the Ghost and Friends YouTube channel. Got a special one here. Got YouTube's finest, some of Texas football's, most devoted content creators and just most knowledgeable, ball knowers. Hate to use that term, but welcome to the first, for the first time to the channel. I got Texas Homer up here top right. You got the birthday man, bottom left, Mr. Steven, and returning again for many, many times to the channel, Mr. Nash Talks Texas. How we doing, gentlemen?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Happy birthday, Steve.
Thank you, fellas. Thank you. We hear I always say, for the love of the game. What better way to spend my birthday than talking ball? We got ball coming up, one of the biggest historic matchups to start a season. I can't wait. Thanks for having us on, Ghost.
For sure.
Yeah, love to have it. Nash, you good down there, brother?
Oh, I'm doing good. I mean, yeah, just happy birthday to Steven over here, man. I'm happy to hear you're having a good day. Good day on your birthday is always a good time. But, man, this is, like you said, man, this is fun. This is almost like exactly reverse from the 2006 matchup with Ohio State and Texas. You got Ohio State coming into Texas, the former national championship team, and then it's just completely reverse.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, man. You talk about almost 20 years back. Obviously, they played 20 years back in Columbus in an epic matchup. But yeah, happy birthday again down there, brother. I hope your day is fantastic. And again, thanks that you would take some of your time out of that busy schedule, man, especially on a birthday to hang with the fellas. Means a lot. And good point, Nash. It is roles reversed, if you will. Jared Ted, I saw you in the comments, man. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I got the Mount Rushmore of Texas YouTube Twitter out here. Not myself, but these three gentlemen make up that cast. They're special guys. So thanks for being here, guys. This is Texas Homer and Fanatic Perspective's first time to the channel. If there's anybody somehow that is watching this that doesn't know who these gentlemen are, you got to follow them on Twitter. You got to follow them or subscribe, like everything on YouTube. Fanatic Perspective, very fun content creator for Texas. Been doing it for a long time. Obviously, Texas Homer working. The OG,
yeah,
Texas Homer,
grandfather of all. Well, I don't want to say that. The godfather. We'll say that. I'm not trying to put grandfather.
He's our age, but he's been doing it longer, is what we're saying.
Yeah, there we go.
The first.
I mean, it's pretty surreal for me, to be honest, because I used to watch Texas Homer's videos, and I'd hear that voice come on, and hairs on the back of my neck would stand up, and I'm like, oh yeah, man, the narration of those was special, man, and it still is special, and he puts a lot of time, work, and effort into those videos, guys. So if you haven't again heard or seen any of Homer's work, go check all that out. Fanatic Perspectives as well, and Nash is all right, but you guys know Nash, he's here all the time. So go ahead, bro.
I'm just here, man. I'm just living life, brother.
What you got? One cat or one dog back there at a time? But all right, man. So on the channel, we'd like to get a little bit personal at times before we get into the ball talk. And since it is your first time on the channel, whoever wants to take this one first, if you could, man, tell us how and why you got into Texas football, especially on the YouTube side of it, and kind of how that path has maybe opened some doors for you.
Take it away, man.
So fanatic Perspective, Steven here, in reverse, my typical intro. But I actually started YouTube back, I think, in 2017. So this is September will be 8 years in this space, as I actually originally started to talk about Canelo versus Triple G. And if you look at my original videos, they were boxing videos, and then it went to Cowboys and eventually Longhorns. And it was after, it kind of blew up after, unfortunately, we lost to Maryland. And that was when, the community and people were just looking for a place, what I call, group therapy at the time, especially during the Herman days. And it became, just getting to know people, right? People in the community, people that were Texas fans, people that were like-minded. And that's what I try to keep it at, just like if you were a friend at a bar or a barbershop talking to your buddy, right? And over these few years, this space has grown. I'm so happy that Texas is so There's so many places you can go, so many different types of creators. Whatever your personality is, you can find somebody that you relate to follow the team, absorb content. And now it's the golden era, right, of Texas football that we're in, where it's fun to do this. It's fun to talk about the team. It's no longer, doom and gloom conversations like we used to have. So I'm just really, really thankful and grateful to still be here, to still be doing this 8 years later, to still be having fun. I've met Texas Homer and Nash through this space. Homer, I've now known for almost 5 years now. Like, it's already been that long, right? So Ghost, thank you for having me on, and I'll pass it to Homer up there.
Yeah, he had to go first because I was one of the first subscribers with him, and I would watch all those therapy sessions. So that's exactly what it was. I was a moderator on his channel as well, and I used to be like, "Hey, man, like let's do breakdowns with like visuals and stuff like that." And he was like, "Man, I don't know how to edit that stuff." And so then I was like, "All right, well, I guess I'll create this Texas Homer channel." I went to film school at Texas, so it's my background. And so that's how it started with Homer. I just did all this like compulsive research and for the week leading up to games by myself, didn't share it with anybody. And so then I just turned it into that. And then I just used all the little film school tricks, to add production value and all that stuff. So I think I'm at year 4 of creating content. And then I think year 3 with Inside Texas. So it's been awesome, man. It's this space has been great. It's huge now, right? Like everyone's got a channel now, right? But the big networks have it, all the independent YouTubers, man. But originally it was Fanatic, and I was in his comment section with him and Tran commiserating after we, would lose these horrible games. So yeah, that was kind of the path. And man, we're lucky, dude. We just get to talk about football. A lot of people don't get to have that level of fun. So I'm excited, man. This is cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Steven and Tran were basically our weekly therapists back there in 2020. But it's fun. It's crazy thinking that I'm like thinking back now and going, wow, I've actually known Steven for 5 years now, like or for 4 or 5 years. It's like it's getting there, and that's crazy, man.
Yeah,
I've had so many people, man, and that mutual friends of Homer and Nash. Obviously, we have a lot in the same circle. We've hung out a lot, but mutual friends of Homer's and Fanatics that it's not just about the content; it's about the man behind it. And a lot of people say really, really good things about you guys, and so getting to know you guys and having you on definitely a blessing in itself. And excited to see where it goes. And so great shares from both of you guys. I had no clue that y'all had that type of connection in the past, that y'all have, actually, helped one another, benefited from one another's relationship. And, it's really, really cool to see the connections, man. You get in, like I said, I knew who you guys were, and I started getting into the space a little bit. And like you said, everyone's got a channel, man. And everybody, like Steven said, there's really good content out there. People do a really good job. They do a great job with production, do a great job with the guest list. And so it's a lot of fun, man. And my wife kind of hates me for how much, time it takes up, but it is what it is.
You're not the only one.
My wife doesn't even like football, man. So I just get complaints anytime football's even on the TV. So I feel you, dude.
Hey, you know what's I've been in a group chat with these two jokers for the past 4 years too. So we'll
get you in there.
Quite a lot about it.
Yeah, we'll get you in there, Ghost. We'll add you.
There we go.
We do need to add Ghost to the group chat.
We'll get you in. We've had
we already got enough.
We've lost a few members along the way. We need to pick up.
Yeah, but it's the independent YouTube chat. We've been in there forever, so we'll get you added to that, man.
I love it, guys. Thank you. Definitely. Let's say any group chat, man, you're gonna lose a few good soldiers along the way. It's just it's how those things work nowadays. Nash and I just saw a group chat that went pretty well for a long time, and it went down in a flame the other day, but it is what it is. So again, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for opening up, sharing a little bit about, your journey with YouTube, Texas YouTube, and where it's kind of taken you. And so with that being said, before we get into ball talk, I'll make it quick. Very excited to say I posted it on Twitter this morning, but I'll be joining Homer, Nash, Eric, Nalene, Justin Wells, the rest of the guys at Inside Texas. Primarily, adding content to the YouTube side of things. I'll be doing Wednesday night kind of around the SEC. It's not the particular name, but just giving you an idea of what we'll be doing, bringing on guests from around the conference, looking at the more relevant things that maybe don't particularly include Texas. Thursday night, we'll be doing a pre-game show, but my first appearance on Inside Texas will be this coming Sunday, 10 a.m. I believe Mr. Connor will be joining me for that one, but we'll be a little post-game show for so-so matchup with Texas at Ohio State this Saturday, 11 o'clock in the shoe. Fellas, it is almost here. The nerves for me, I'm still a little bit of the eternal pessimist just because, I can't believe I'm a front runner, man. I got into this in July of last year. You guys were in the trenches through some dark times. You mentioned the Maryland loss. We've had a Kansas loss since then. We had 2 Maryland losses. So, yeah, man, I'm just a front runner. You guys have earned your stripes, and so it is cool to be a part of the Inside Texas team and to be bringing some content over there. Can't wait to get to it. Excited to work with Homer some, and so yeah, glad to drop that news finally. That all played out in the last 72 to 96 hours. Moved fast, and very, very excited to get that endeavor going. But we're here to talk Texas. We're here to talk Ohio State. We're going to get to that. Nash talk Texas. I'm going to ask you first, brother. So much hype around this game. Obviously, you got Matt Patricia, new DC for Ohio State. A lot of back and forth amongst Texas fans of what does he do? What looks does he throw Texas? What does Texas throw at Ohio State? But my question for you, and I'm going to ask you two gentlemen the same. Texas loses the toss. Ohio State defers here. Obviously, Texas takes the football. And if you're Steve Sarkeesian, I'm assuming we're going to get a touchback here to start this football game. We got the ball at the 25-yard line on the road. Arch Manning under the center or in the gun. What are you doing with that first snap, man? What do you want to see?
I think a lot of people are going to want a shot, just take a shot straight out the gate. But I think you honestly, man, we need a run game. And you hand that ball off to CJ Baxter or Trey Wisner, and you just try and set the tone right then and there, right? Let's go get 5 yards. Let's let them know, hey, we're playing some football today. Let the linemen, let them, because there's been all this just energy, frustration pent up in camp. You can't go again. You're going against your own teammates. You can't really go you're not going 100. You're going 100%, right? But it's not the same as going up against an opponent that you were actually trying to smash and kill. And let them go at it, man. That's what I say. Let them get one play where they're just like, hey, we're good now. And then after that, we can kind of relax a little bit.
Well, let me ask you this, peeling back a little bit deeper into that, concepts wise, what do you think? We, smash them in the mouth. We saw some wide zone out of Texas last year. Me in particular, I'm hoping the bread and butter is more of the inside zone, the duo concepts there. But we know, Sark's going to be a window dresser here. There's going to be all. Go ahead, sir.
No, I was just going to say, man, I agree right there. Duo. Trey Wisner, he's been on record on 3rd and Longhorns saying, hey, that's my favorite play. It's all duo is just all about we're going to run right in your face. And
running back loves it because it's a single read on the linebacker. So it's just if he goes in, you're out. Adrian Peters, all of them love it. Just because.
But hey, let him get it, man. If that's what he wants, let him get it. We didn't run a lot last year, and that would be a welcoming sign. Hey, we're going to run more into the interior. I would love that.
Can our tight ends block? So
I'm comfortable. I'm like, oh, hey, wait, by the way, this dude he's also pretty athletic and catch the damn ball.
Yeah. It's gonna be big for duo.
I think he's willing. You know what I mean? I think effort will be there, and
walk on. You have to be.
Yeah, right. Obviously, different type of athlete that you're gonna be seeing. In Columbus, and most of the schedule, all the schedule he saw last year, and then obviously every Saturday in the SEC, a little different. But I think with reps, man, he's going to be I have feelings he'll be a plus blocker. But yeah, I like a little 12 personnel, a little bully ball early, set the tone. You pick up 4 or 5 right there on first down. That's a big win in my book. How about you, brother Steven? What you thinking here? First play, Texas football, 15 minutes on the clock in the first quarter. How are we setting the tone there?
When I look at we're doing our rewatch series on my channel, and when I've been tracking, and Homer knows this because he's been watching a lot of them with me, we've been tracking the first play of the game, right, from scrimmage. And with Arch, both of his were play action, comebacks, right, like kind of rhythm throws to get him in the game. Most of them have been throws except for 2 games, whether it was Quinn or Arch. I think we started with 3 that were more lateral swing passes. And then Arch, he had 2, kind of intermediate, just deep comebacks, to let him rip it a little bit. Me personally, I might actually start him with boot because if you look at the Colorado State game, I think it was, he kind of came in and ran boot immediately. and really just kind of showcase, like, wake those defensive ends up is what I mean, right? How are we going to play this? So, because to me, it's like I really want to get Arch comfortable as quickly as possible. The run game's going to come, the physicality is going to come, but I probably would start out with some sort of boot action to get Arch going.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, like you said, it keeps the ends honest there. If you have success on a play like that off first down, that they have to keep it in the very back of their minds, anytime that we are running play action, that's a possibility, and maybe that does help the ground game. I like it. A young quarterback on the road, you get his blood going, get the legs working. Hopefully, it's Steve Sarkeesian. I can see him dialing up a very, very easy 6, 7, 8 yard completion. Just on a very simple concept on 1st and 10 there to do that very thing, get Arch a little acclimated to that environment. And, obviously you want to start off with some confidence and get the young man, trending for a good 4 quarters of football there. What you got for us, Homer? What are you doing on 1st and 10 if you're Steve Sarkeesian?
So there's an urge to go 12 personnel. Injuries would be more of our receiving tight end, and then Spencer Shannon there is our true blocker inline guy. So that would be kind of your duo option. I'm still not sold on that blocking. So what I want to do is, if you look at run defense for their starting 2 tackles, they're 4 and 8, ranked 4 and 8 if out of the SEC. Pretty good there, man. Caden Curry at edge, pretty good. Kenyatta Jackson, other edge, middle of the pack. So maybe you want to look at spreading them out a little bit for a specific reason. I want to target nickel Lorenzo Styles in the pass game early. I know Downs can do it. I know everybody else pretty much can do it. But maybe spread them out a little bit. I like the boot, so that way you can get the world of the play action and get something on top of that. But let's make them hesitant early. I don't want a shot, but maybe a short pass, something targeting the nickel. See if that's something that we can invest in. But those guys talking about adding a run, they have no interior D-line depth. So get their good run stuffers up, the first guys. You need to invest play 1 because you want it to pay off in the 4th quarter. So target nickel in a short concept, see who can cover that guy specifically. And then if not, hey, man, let's invest. If you get stuffed, great. We want to see what happens in the 4th quarter against that D-line.
I like it a lot, man. You talk about doing something in the 1st quarter with essentially the purpose of being successful in the 4th quarter. Funny, Dave Meyer chiming in here as a
Can I answer this one from Dave?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so this is we're fans, right? We're emotional. We're fired up for the game. My football mind, though, if I take the emotion out of it and look at it logically, when I come into an environment like this, knowing that I have a strong defense, right, going up against a young quarterback in a crazy environment, the worst thing I can do is get overly aggressive and get too emotional and give them a short field. One of the things we can allow the game to come to us, and one of the things that Homer's talking about when he's talking about attacking the nickel or looking at those tackles, it's gathering data early, right? How are they playing me? What are they doing? What are they trying to key on? We can afford, I'm a boxing guy, we can afford to kind of take some data early, especially if we have a punter now. We do not need to the worst thing you can do is allow him to get confidence. That's Julian saying in them on the other end. So I'm not saying play scared or not be aggressive, but understanding that you want to gather as much data as possible, get your guys going early, because I want to dominate time of possession in this game. I want to dominate the possessions, and I want to keep them running their offense. I want them to run their offense out of their own end zone. I don't want to give them opportunities that are unnecessary because we're fired up and we want to take shots. We'll take shots in the game. The shots will be there. They'll come. But, that's my perspective on it just early. F it, let's just come out and throw it deep. They're defending national champions for a reason, right?
Dave is also an Oklahoma fan that's joking around over there. But I do agree, and I think that Steve Sarkeesian that's a lot of what Steve Sarkeesian wants to do. I feel like a lot of his opening scripts is kind of almost poking and prodding and trying to see how the defense is going to react, because he's, like Homer said, Sark is trying to set up, that's Sark's entire point of the game plan. He's sitting there trying to set up plays for later on so that he can just go and kill you in one play. Do a maybe sets up a couple runs where you fall into a lull, and then all of a sudden you got a play action shot that you weren't even expecting.
Well, it's a fact. Opening drives are a fact finding mission. That's the whole point. So you're going and how do they line up to 2x2? Who's on the field if I go in 12? Like you're trying to get a bunch of groups in because you're trying to see those matchups. And Sark normally hits the jackpot on that, meaning that he got what he expected he was going to get. Patricia's a different angle though, right? So we don't know if he's going to go. Paul thinks he'll go more NFL style, Belichick game plan for the offense. I don't know about that because it takes a lot of work to do that. But we don't really know what we're going to get because Patricia hasn't had success without Belichick. We don't know what that means. So it also might be tricky. You're going to want to figure out how are they going to play us at all with a new coordinator. So that first drive, Sark normally does strike gold, but that's all. That opening drives are the most fascinating drives to study in every game of all of football because the chess match starts right then. So I'm always excited to watch that. And Sark normally wins that battle.
Oh, that's really well said, man. One of the biggest unknowns is what Matt Patricia, that scheme looks like. Is it the match quarters concepts? A lot of what he did with Bill Belichick. Does he implement that at Ohio State with, like Homer said, not the lengthiest of time to implement, a pretty difficult system especially for some college guys, in my opinion. So I tend to think they revert back to a lot of the things that they were doing last year. You got a lot of these guys that have experience, obviously in Jim Knowles' system, and I think Patricia can, he's accustomed to several of the same principles that Knowles was running, and obviously Knowles is an incredible DC, and personally, I'm glad he's gone. This is a big thing for Texas to have a Matt Patricia in place of a Jim Knowles coming off a national championship season, but I think that's really, really, really well said by all of you. I mean, you got to win on first down here on the road, in my opinion. You can't. Obviously Dave, I think, was trolling a little bit, but we're not going to take a big shot there. You don't want to have a 2nd and 10 because all of a sudden that puts so much pressure on that second down play call. I don't think Ohio State necessarily gets aggressive on first down. I think they kind of are in sit and watch mode. The same way that Texas might be at times. They're going to be doing a little fact finding, information for what both coaches have kind of been cooking up and scheming against one another. Excited to see, man. It's going to be a brilliant chess match. I do like what y'all talked about. Sark is normally winning that battle most times than not. And even if he doesn't, he adjusts so very well. I can think several times in the last couple of years, especially in Red River, you get there, Venables has a solid plan. We look kind of yuck early in that, which it seems like Quinn's never healthy coming in, or was never healthy going into that game. So that added to it a little bit. But then we'd come out on the 2nd or 3rd drive and, we'd line up just a touch differently. We'd fling one out on a quick out or something to Gunner or a list of players. Pick up, we're stealing 20, 25 yards at times. And that's Steve. It's just him adjusting to what they're doing to motion or what they're doing to 2x2. And it's fun to watch, man, because I don't think Texas has ever had an offensive mind like a Steve Sarkeesian.
No.
I mean,
he's the best offensive mind we've ever had, and it's not particularly close, at least in my lifetime. I probably would say going back to John before Mac Brown was coach.
John Makovich.
Yeah, John Makovich was probably the second best one that I've seen at this school. Problem is he was not a relationship guy like that and struggled with it, but he was an offensive guru. But I have a question and a comment for you based upon what you just said. So my comment, I'm gonna start my comment. So my comment is, I do believe I like Sark against former NFL guys. I like the way he handled Wink Martindale last year at Michigan. I know Wink and Patricia come from two lines of thought, and McDonald and all those guys are down the Wink Martindale tree. So we kind of had some expectation of how Michigan was going to attack us, but Michigan had NFL guys sprinkled all over that defense. And one of the things that I thought was a little damning for us that we got out of was we got in 3rd and long a lot early in that game, but we were just converting it. We were hitting on big plays to Matthew Golden, but we were getting backed up a lot early in that Michigan game. If you go back and watch it, we just kept bailing ourselves out, and Quinn probably played some of his best ball that he's ever played at Texas. My question is, do you guys have concern when it comes to some of the pre-snap stuff with our offensive line? a lot of the shift motion stuff we do. We run an NFL offense on the road, new offensive linemen. Granted, I know Gooseby and Hudson and DJ have experience, but it's different when you're in there and you're, making calls and whatnot. I have concerns about penalties, and especially pre-snap. I'm more worried about my offensive line pre-snap than I am post-snap. What say you guys there? Because that's something that is really kind of rattling around in my mind.
I think, as far as I think one thing that really goes to our advantage is even the guys that don't have experience necessarily. Brandon Baker's the only guy that hasn't been here for 2 or more years. So unless these guys just really, I understand it's different when you're in Ohio State and you can't hear the dude next to you because the sound is that loud. But if they've been really studying the playbook and learning where they're supposed to, learning their responsibilities, their buddies' responsibilities, cross training like Kyle Flood likes to do, in 2 to 3 years you should have all of your all the procedural stuff, all the, hey, this is my job, this is what I need to do, this is when I need to go. I not messing up basically. I on an assignment, all that stuff needs to be nailed down. If that's not nailed down, I'm kind of that kind of worries me a little bit. But I do worry about the antsiness of the offensive line.
I mean, Nash, we had a veteran group last year outside of Cam. Big Cam was the only new starter last year, and granted, Cam was the one jumping the most, but we had problems with the veterans, and we had problems in the Vanderbilt game pre-snap.
Yeah, but
if you remember.
But at the same time, I guess kind of to what I'm saying, if we start to see those penalties, the pre-snap penalties, that kind of worries me about what we're going to see later on down the road, because I don't think that's just going to be an Ohio State thing. And this isn't to throw Jake Majors under the bus. It's just what happened. I mean, your center, we had pre-snap penalties in 2023. And then it was are these pre-snap penalties going to come in 2020? And they did. And it's a matter, and that's not a case of, hey, Jake Majors doesn't know ball, because I've heard enough former quarterbacks like Joel Klatt, Kirk Herbstreit just sit there and glaze Jake Majors' football IQ.
He was a very good center. He just had the snap infraction.
Yeah,
it was like a tick.
But so I guess my thing is, if there are pre-snap penalties, I've kind of talked with Homer about this a little bit off camera. Pre-snap penalties, those are the ones that really you get pissed off at. Those are the ones that hurt the most, because it honestly shows a little bit of you're just not ready. Your lack of preparedness. And I think that's something that will, travel through a career more often than not.
With Kyle, so this has been an issue with Kyle Flood's lines. And so that's something that I'm paying attention to, because it's a coaching thing, and they're sticky. You'll always hear this, it was a rough first couple of games, but we'll figure it out. That's not what the stats say. You generally don't. It's pretty sticky. Now you can get a couple game one, but that's going to be the trick. Also, pre-snap motion and penalties pre-snap are correlated. You do get more just by the nature of it. It's pretty obvious. Mm-hmm. The flip side is motions also let you score more. So you end up kind of balancing a little bit there.
Easier to identify the coverage.
Yeah. So it's kind of a give and take, and it's hard, man. You got a wide receiver running full speed. They all run at different speeds, by the way. And you have to time a snap when they're by the guard. If you're the center,
it's not an easy sport.
Yeah, it's hard to do, man.
That's why some teams don't do it as much, because they can't. They're we're just going to penalize ourselves.
And you do.
Can't do it.
And
it's like a machine. It's like a machine. Every single time you add another thing to an offense, that's just another point of failure for the offense to have a bust play.
But that's our offense, though, folks.
Yeah, that's the tricky
that's why it's a professional offense. Is you got to know your shit on this offense. You're not just if you're on the field with Steve Sarkeesian, particularly on the offense, also on the defense, but really on the offense, you know what you're supposed to do, right? Sark has trust in you, and if he doesn't, we're in for a really bad year.
Yeah, but that's pre-snap penalties are something I'm watching now. we're going into year 5 with Flood. There's some commonalities of issues I've seen with the offensive line that I just frankly want to see fixed. I want to be able to run against opponents of equal ability. And I don't want to, and our penalties, it's not like we're up 30 and it's the third quarter and we snap. It's like the moment we cannot get the penalty is when we shoot ourselves in the foot. So it's also the timeliness of when we mess those things up, man. It's like when we need them most is when we jump. So those are 2 big factors for me that I'm watching for the Texas offensive line holistically.
No, I agree with all of you. I think penalties are definitely a concern, and they have been a concern under Kyle Flood's time at Texas on the offensive line. And I mean, to me, it's like I don't go in honestly expecting it to be any better than what it has been. I'm going in with the mindset of it kind of is what it is at this point, and if Kyle Flood's group proves me wrong, then hey, great, that's awesome. But I'm going in just thinking, this might be a little bit of one of the bugs of a Kyle Flood system. And, hey, I think the offense might be a little more feast or famine this year. I think obviously it'll be a little bit better with the big plays, but then, we might not attack quite as, much in the intermediate game as we have in the past with Quinn in the RPO game. And so, to me, it's just like, hey, I'm going to chalk it up where there might be a time where we have 2 pre-snap penalties in a 7 or 8 play span. And I think that might just be mentally preparing because, it is not a completely brand new offensive line group. But, yeah, I mean, we've seen it for the last several years. It is what it is, in my opinion, and I'm just going to have to overcome it. But I would love to be surprised and, that not be an issue for Texas there. Maybe we only have 1 in the Ohio State game. That goes a long, long way. But, Stephen, you brought it up in the beginning, man. Look back at Michigan, and, yeah, we were behind the 8 ball, way behind the chains multiple times. It was 3rd and 13 on the first series of that game, and Quinn, converted with Isaiah Bond down the right side, with 30-yard play. That was huge. Kind of, for me, it was like a sigh of relief. In that moment, it was like, okay, we're going to be able to move the ball against Wink and a very aggressive Michigan defense. And make them, at least respect the downfield passing game somewhat. But, yeah, Quinn cooked after that. Yeah, and there were times where we had to because he had multiple times third and very long there.
Multiple third and longs.
Especially the first couple of drives in that football game.
I just don't want to be in that situation again. I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think that's fair to ask of Arch, right? But, I mean, we did it, and we look back at the score and what we were able to do moving the ball, and we're like, oh, everything worked. But it's like when you go back and watch snap for snap, it's like, dude, we were like 2nd and 20, so it's like, I don't want to be in that in Columbus, right?
It's a whole different monster with Ohio State. Yeah, you have a Michigan offense that had Colston Loveland being featured, and no offense for that offensive line, they were never going to give that backfield a chance. Whole different monster here with Ohio State. Josh and Manny, really appreciate that, brother. Thanks a lot, man. You've been with me since literally the very beginning, so I haven't forgotten you, brother. I appreciate your contributions on the channel and that super chat as well. These guys definitely make a man's job pretty easy, man. It's fun to get some fellas on here that you don't have to ask questions. They're like, this is my concern, and it's a genuine one and the same concern that I have. So love having these fellas on. It's easy ball talk for sure, and thank you guys for being in the chat. Like the video if you haven't done it. Subscribe to the channel, but also pop over to Inside Texas. Like the videos Nash Homer putting up work, Mr. Evan Veith, they're doing great jobs all the time. So go sub over there and turn those notifications on, man. It's content popping up all of the time. Taylor Swift and Travis, they should take precedence in any podcast nowadays, but unfortunately here you missed it. We talked about it for like 20 minutes in the beginning. Sorry about that, Josh. You're going to have to rewind and go catch up a little bit on that.
Yeah, we got a 3-part series dropping on it. Don't worry, man.
I will say one thing that does give me, and this probably might be nothing, but I think it's at least worth a little bit, is Trevor Gooseby all of last year, he was repping with the Neto on the 2s. And you also have Brandon Baker on the 2s. Now, Hudson, he was repping at guard at the 2 spot, but this is just one of these deals where this offensive line they have a lot of as much as it is a new offensive line. There's a lot of cohesion returning, if that makes sense, because they've been practicing with each other. They kind of know each other's tendencies. They're not going up against scrubs at Texas when they're going head to head against the defense, right? They're going up against good defensive linemen. So it's not like they're going up against some low level like MAC school, and we don't like they're not getting any real reps in practice. No, they're getting real reps, and they're having to communicate with each other. And I think that that's at least got to be worth something, because this is, for as much as we are replacing 4 offensive linemen, they still have a lot of experience with each other.
Nash, to that point, it's funny you say that, because with a lot of people, depending on the national narrative, I feel like has been Texas has lost so much. And, a lot of people are acknowledging what Ohio State lost, but sometimes I don't think it's necessarily even and what people are equating in terms of what's there and what's not. And when you talk about the offensive line, we have to understand that it's going to be a wash in the trenches in terms of experience with our offensive line versus their 4 new starters on their defensive line. JT Tuamalu, Jack Sawyer, Tyleik Williams, Ty Hamilton are all in the NFL. Homer brought up Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, and McDonald. They all played in the Cotton Bowl. I think Curry even had a forced fumble. They've played, but they haven't been the guys, right? And then Homer brought up the rotation behind them. What was beautiful was these guys were the rotation behind JT and Jack and them. So to me, it's a net because it's like, well, a lot of our guys played last year. They've played a lot of snaps. So our 2s from last year are going against y'all's 2s from last year. It's not like we're asking them to go up against JT and Jack. They gone. So I don't feel this angst with that. That's why I'm saying that's the post-snap stuff. I don't feel as much angst with that as some other people are making it seem. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
It is funny that because there's been a narrative that Texas has a much less experienced offensive line than Ohio State does. And that, if you're looking at 2024 snaps, cool. But it is funny because like Texas, if you were to look at just all the snaps returning, Texas has 3,670. Ohio State has 3,312. Now, Ohio State has 49 starts with those offensive linemen coming back. Texas has 45. But like you said, this is just we're splitting the hairs, man. Like this is a really and to all that cohesion that I talked about, Ohio State, we have 13. I think we have like 13 years total, or 12 combined years under Kyle Flood. Their offensive line has 10 combined years at Ohio State. So, really, when you want to look, like if you want to look at it, the experience level, it's pretty even for both groups.
It's going to be interesting. Ohio State's really confident in their offensive line and their depth. Now, the trick is, right, because they pay all the money to Oninawa to be a left tackle, right? And he doesn't. He gets moved to right tackle. He gets beat out there, and then he's been repping depth at guard. So the Ohio State positive side of that is like we're so dominant, our left tackle couldn't even start. The flip side is you mis-evaled him, and he's not that good. So that's going to be an interesting room, man. But their advantage is that most of those guys played in the playoffs together because McLaughlin got hurt at center, so Hensman's in. Teshbola, or however you pronounce it. So that's the trickier part, is that they got more reps in serious situations, and it was recent. So that's kind of, I think, an interesting piece for them. It's going to be interesting, man. But Steven's point on they're having a new D line, I think that's a valuable point when comparing, because both of these are developmental programs. You expect both of these groups to make the leap. But you're not going against established, sure thing killers right now.
Yeah, and our offensive line isn't facing their offensive line. Our offensive line is facing their defensive line.
What?
And their offensive line is facing our defensive line, right? Yeah. So when I'm comparing what, I'm not thinking about what Ohio State has on the other side. I'm thinking about what they're going to be facing, right? So it's like, to me, it's like we're not asking them to face established All-American juggernauts. Now, Caden Curry and them may become that, we'll see. They haven't had the opportunity, but that's what I'm comparing. Like when we talk about the Ohio State offensive line, that's juxtaposed to old boy's going to have to block Colin Simmons, right? Like, so that's a little bit different conversation. I feel like that's the way we got to angle the conversation, because that's what we're going to see on the field.
Well, and I will say, like, to that point, I think they have the Austin. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name. Starts with an S.
Sarabeld.
That dude, he's an interior offensive lineman. He's moving up to left tackle, I believe, right? Homer, you would.
Yeah, and don't get it twisted, bro. He's an Iron Buckeye, and only like 4 or 5 get it, and apparently it's the highest honor according to Ohio State fans that I've talked to. But yeah, apparently he's a leader, and he goes hard in the weight room too, dude.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, man, this is Colin Simmons, and it'll be his first time repping out there at the tackle position, like against live, live shit. And by the way, it's the best defensive edge, rusher you're going to face all year. And so I think the one way to look at it for if you're an Ohio State fan is, man, if this Austin Sarabeld dude, sticks up versus Colin Simmons, y'all got yourselves a first round tackle right there. Like that dude's going places, and he should have a pretty damn good year if he can, stifle Colin Simmons. Now, I think part of the problem that you're going to have for the Ohio State offensive line is, like you said, man, Steven, our programs, this has been such a developmental program. Dude, our edges, we are legitimately too deep in the sense that, like, Colton Vassett could be starting easily at 90% of other, top Power 4 schools. Like, that dude's an animal. And the only reason why he's not starting right now is because there's a dude named Colin Simmons sitting in front. So when you think about, hey, okay, now we got Colin Simmons off the field, it's not, hey, we got Colin Simmons off the field. We get to relax just a little bit, We get to, maybe focus on something else.
Well, old boys should look at it this way on Cherville on Ohio State. A couple years ago, it was more than a couple years ago, Homer knows this because we talked about it. Kelvin Banks is a freshman versus Will Anderson. You remember those conversations before the game?
Yeah.
And we came out of it so encouraged, right? Because he played well against him. So if I'm Ohio State, I'm like, look, this is an opportunity for you to really up your stock if you hold it down against guys like Colin Simmons, against that depth. Because we've been in that boat with a young freshman tackle in Kelvin Banks. And that's how he put himself on the map against Will Anderson Jr. and Dallas Turner and them on the other side. Y'all remember those conversations we were having when we first played in Austin, not the Bama game. So, those are the fun parts of this matchup right off the bat, right? To see all the good talk about the offseason. We feel good about this guy. He's a award winner. He's a program guy. Can you block Colin Simmons? Right? Like, he got block Colton Bassett when you're
leadership
tired.
Doesn't block Colin Simmons. That's the thing. So that's
superhuman ability to drop back blocks Colin Simmons. That dude, I've never seen a guy get up the field as fast as he does.
Yeah, well, let me ask you guys this. I definitely love all of the guys. I think y'all are nailing it. You don't have to just block Colin Simmons. You have to deal with a Brad Spence, a Colton Vassett. There's multiple names that are just chomping at the bit, waiting to earn their stripes, to prove these are all guys that, they're at Texas for a reason. And guys like Colton, who've been sitting and battling injuries. Brad Spence has been with Arkansas and is now in much better program, in my opinion, to succeed as a football player. And I like what he was doing at Arkansas. It's not just one guy. It's not just Colin Simmons. So for all the Ohio State fans that are going to look at, the comments that have been going around from not like it's anything too headline grabby, in my opinion, but they're just not paying attention to the full depth of that defensive line. I don't think they really understand the different amounts of waves that Texas is going to be able to throw at you. And I think we'll get some excellent productivity from the defensive line room as well. One question I saw up here, one comment rather I saw up here was from Dave, was talking about the guys, Isaiah Bond and Quinn Ewers, that made that conversion on 3rd and 13 to kind of get us going last year in Ann Arbor. They're gone. One player you guarantee makes a big play early in this game for Texas. Who are you taking?
Livingstone.
Big play early.
Nash, really?
Whoever can burn Igbinosun, man, because he's just physical, but he can't cover in space deep. So that'll be.
And he's one of the leading guys in the country in pass interference.
That's what I'm saying. He can't cover. He mauls everyone.
Look, I think there's just something to be said. Like, it is a cliche thing, but cliches are cliches for a reason, right? I think there's something to be said about Parker being Arch's roommate, and maybe there's just this extra little bit of film study that they've done with each other. And, there's something that they've talked about that he hasn't really, gotten to go in depth with some of the other wide receivers. And, maybe it's something like on a scramble. Arch says, hey, if they're doing this, I want you to do this. It could be something as simple as that. But I think that there is something to be said about the roommate factor. And I think that we are Parker Livingston also, don't get it twisted. That dude's he's a dude. But I think that he's going to be one of our guys.
Can I do a defensive back rant real quick?
Of course. Let's do it.
So
I love a homer rant.
It's just Igbinosun is a big physical corner. If you're in the red zone, don't play that game with him. He'll win. If he can get you up against the sideline and use it as a second defender, he'll push you out of bounds. He can't cover in space, and he's the boundary corner most of the time. That'll be where Ryan Wingo is. A big question for me is Texas wide receivers. We know they have playmaking ability, and we know they have speed. What I've yet to see is, do they have physicality against physical corners? Okay, that's going to be huge. And if you watch Ohio State, they're coached, and this is not me complaining of they're fouling. They do everything correctly. If you get by them, they're going to perfectly time the jersey tug. You're going to slow down, and they're going to get to you. They do it. Every DB does it. They're really good. Our receivers are going to have to earn everything because every trick in the book is available to Ohio State. So that's the big thing. As far as Livingston out on the field, he's going to face Jermaine Matthews. He was their number 3 corner. He had a bunch of reps. He's their pure coverage guy. So that's a really fascinating matchup because he theoretically should be able to cover Livingston, even though Livingston is a deep threat. Now, Lorenzo Styles versus DeAndre Moore is enticing, but that's up the middle of the field, and I like their safety play. So it's that'll be a tricky part, but that matchup is really big for me. And then look, Ryan Wingo, Paul will say, he was a slants and a screens guy last year, and he was. But he has to get off press. His releases have to be nice. And as a younger receiver, you can't be getting frustrated because they're going to pull you off your route. You're going to want to cry to the ref. And guess what? Now you're rattled and doing that. The biggest key in this whole game for me is our wide receivers versus their DBs, not the inverse, which everyone thinks of the receivers versus ours. So that's the biggest part with their DB group. And that question is unanswered for me. Can we handle the physicality, the gamesmanship, and all the stuff that they provide in the secondary? Favorite matchup, though, Lorenzo Styles, DeAndre Moore, probably most likely for your big play.
I want to piggyback on that because what Homer's talking about is so real that Penn State, it forced Penn State to go to the portal and get real receivers. Because if you go back and watch that matchup, I think when they were 2-3 in the country at the time, when they played each other last year, you remember the interception that Igbinosun had in the end zone on Harrison, and he just mossed Harrison for the ball. Drew Allard basically put up a 50-50 ball, and the boy just moved him out the way and got the ball and it was to the point where the only people catching balls on Penn State were Singleton and Tyler Warren, their tight end. They completely took their receivers out of the game. So when you look at that, now granted, we've played against them, as recently as January. So at least our guys should have a feel for them. Wingo was on the field, right? Now he was moving around, guys were moving around. But that's to Homer's point, that physicality exposed those Penn State receivers to the point where they went and rehauled the whole room in the portal, right? So that's what our guys are going to have to deal with on Saturday.
Paul makes if you can pull it up in a second, sorry. If Paul makes a good point, how tall is the pure cover corner? He is 5'11", and then he says Livingston 6'4". That's a huge matchup, and Livingston can win contested. So that's important. The flip side is it was Denzel Burke for them last year. He graduated or went pro, and Jermaine Matthews, the can't buzz. How much can you trust it? But a lot of them think Jermaine Matthews is going to be better than Denzel Burke. But there is a big height mismatch. That was a really good point, Paul.
Yeah. Shit, I forgot what I was going to say.
Coverage. Their coverage is good, and it's sneaky, and they use every trick. So
let's talk about
I know what I was going to say.
Oh, go ahead, Nash.
I was just going to say that I think one thing that kind of works out for Ryan Wingo is he kind of really had to, step into a bigger role because Matthew Golden, he gets injured in the halfway through the first quarter. His ankle rolls up or whatever. And it's hey, Wingo, Moore, you're up. Y'all are our dogs now. And I do think that Moore's going to have a really big game because I think that there's going to be attention on some of these other receivers, and I think that DeAndre Moore is that kind of guy that, if you don't focus on him all game, he's going to. It's not a matter of if he will. He's going to at some point. If you just lose focus, you're gonna slip, and he's gonna kill you on the play because he just has that lethal speed.
Well, that's the speed aspect is where I wanted to go with what Homer was saying about the middle of the field, because one of the adjustments that Ohio State made in their championship run was moving Caleb Downs up more to really just rover the middle of the field. But one of the things that DeAndre Moore has is he's one of the rare slot receivers that has the ability to get vertical and climb on your safeties more than most slot guys. Most slot guys are going to live in the middle of the field. And DeAndre Moore, especially with Arch, they do have that on film where he's put up big numbers vertically, targeted a lot in Arch's 2 starts to DeAndre Moore. So if you're thinking about like, okay, what have you at least seen in proof of concept? We've seen that, right? I mean, one of the biggest big boy throws, is when Arch got, took that hit at the 50-yard line and dropped it in the bucket to DeAndre Moore, who's running out of the slot. So I'm wary of the middle of the field with Caleb Downs for several reasons, especially with his experience. But that's also a place of comfort for Arch and DeAndre Moore. So that's a really, really big chess match.
At some point, I like Sark did in Tuscaloosa in 2023. Does they use that aggression at the time it was a young Caleb Downs, but to use that aggression, against Ohio State and Caleb, I feel a lot better last year about just our wide receivers versus our secondary, because I think there's more concepts that you can run with Arch as far as using the entire field, going a little bit more vertical. And that forces Ohio State to play a little bit more on their heels. They won't do that because that's not a winning path to victory here. But, to me, I like what you're saying there, because the slot fade is a real deadly, if you can execute it, the slot fade is lethal in the college level and any level of football. Yep. And, just showing that might be enough to have Caleb Downs lining up 2 yards deeper, which goes a long ways in screen games. And then obviously
gives you way more space.
I mean, it's why guys like Henry Ruggs get drafted in the top 15 of picks, is because if you're able to go and send a wide receiver down the field and make the defense say, hey, we have to defend you, NFL teams love to get burners on their team because it makes defenses spread out their push their safeties back, and now all of a sudden you have more room in between defenders to make other passes.
Downs is he's so creepy, and I mean that in a good way. He's just a killer, just lurking, and he can play the run game. He can drop back into a Tampa 2. That's the big thing. So I don't want Arch to reach feel like he has to force the deep shot, because I don't want to get behind the sticks, and you can do that quickly. Sark's had problems with that, where with with Ewers, we would remember that Worthy season where all we did was throw and never connect, and we were always behind the sticks. But also, I don't want Caleb Downs as a third linebacker, because he's great at that too. So it's there's some level of shots you need to take just to be all right, Downs, get back, because otherwise he gets the best of both worlds. He can play the run and he can drop. You want Caleb Downs to have to make a decision, and he's so smart, dude. If you go watch other players on his team, call him Coach Downs. And if you watch interviews with him, it's damn, this is not only I think an all-pro safety in the future, but he's smart as hell. And so you want him you just want to know where he is. So if you can get him to commit down in the box or far away, don't let him play that middle ground, because he gets best of both worlds, and he makes plays in both the run and the pass.
He's an eraser.
Dre, I got to say real quick, I appreciate you watching in the comment. I don't think we're sleeping on Ohio State defense. We're talking about Caleb Downs being maybe one of the smartest college. He's legitimately probably one of my top 5 defensive college
Homer, you weren't respecting
of all time.
Man.
Yeah, also, that was Jim Knowles that put that game plan together. We need to see Matt Patricia put that same type of game plan together.
Well, and they'll say they're it's the same system as Knowles. It's that's not how it works. Knowles was so creative. It's like Kotelnicki, right? Also Penn State guy, right? You can give me all of Kotelnicki's plays. I can't call it like Kotelnicki. I can't time it at the same time. I don't have the feel. So it's Knowles is we played him at Oklahoma State. We know Knowles. We've known. We know that defense. We played him a long time. So even if you keep the quote unquote same system, it doesn't matter because it's about the feel. When do you call that blitz? When do you call that bluff? You can have the same thing in the pocket, but Knowles was great at timing it right when. And if we know anything about Patricia, not good when Belichick wasn't around. So, and I asked an NFL player who has an association with one of his former teams, and I was like, what's going on there? He's like, it's smoke and mirrors, man. Like, they're playing man and sometimes cover two. He's like, but they make it look scary, but there's also that thing too, talking to pros that have played in that system. So I'm interested in Patricia, but to just think that you're going to do Knowles, like you got to, I know he left, so it's a sore thing. He's one of the better defensive coordinators in college football. You can't just recreate it like that. And
like you said, with tons of experience with him, we knew that matchup was going to be always very, very physical, very, very tough to move the football. I think obviously Ryan Day, he deserves a ton of credit. I mean, they completely switch run blocking schemes. He ate some pride there. I think some news has been dropped recently about the players only meeting where they kind of really let Ryan Day have it. It sounds like, and everybody was challenged in that room a little bit. Or challenging him rather.
Was it post Michigan?
Post Michigan before Tennessee.
And so I have respect for Ryan Day. But let me ask you this: if Ryan Day goes in there and that offensive line doesn't look great, and then some of the lack of defensive line depth for Ohio State kind of gets exposed, Texas maybe controls the second half on the ground a little bit. Are Buckeye fans going to be really, really quick to ratchet up the Ryan Day just had a fluke run and he's not that guy because they were doing that last year in December already.
They still are right now. They are right now. Like I've seen them. I've seen their fans sitting there talking about like after Matt Campbell. They were literally in the middle of the Iowa State game saying, "Oh man, I think Matt Campbell's our next head coach. I like Matt Campbell as our next head coach." Like I still like. I'm getting tagged by. And this is the funny thing. I'm getting tagged by like fans of Ohio State, and like their name is literally "I hate Ryan Day. Ryan Day sucks. Ryan Day's a fraud." Right?
Look, their job, a head coach's job is to hire good coordinators. So the thing could be like, I don't think he's a good whatever, but he hired the right guys, and you don't fluke that playoff run, guys. They beat back to back to back. Like you've never been more sure of a champion than ever. To have to go through that run, Tennessee,
completely
Texas, Notre Dame, that's not a fluke. And the fact that they made changes also speaks to it. Because a dumb coach would lock down, and maybe the players revolted, who knows, but a dumb coach would be like, our system's our system. But they were like, look, we're going to add some counter stuff here. Hey, we're going to do that. That, to me, is a sign of a good head coach that was reasonable, But Ohio State's on that different. Texas, we're new to being back to this tier, like – we'll do the same thing to Sark, right? 3 years from now, no championship. Guess what? So we'll get annoying like that eventually if it doesn't happen. But
it's college football fans, baby.
It's college football fans. But they're complaining from the penthouse right now over little things. But
they're gonna complain about Julian saying if he gets roughed up in this game. They did it, and I'll say it again. They did it to CJ Stroud in the Minnesota game. His first game against Minnesota, even though he threw 4 touchdowns in that game and they ended up pulling that game out. Do y'all remember what Twitter was that night? CJ Stroud's very first start, people were talking about, well, maybe you should put Quinn in or they should put this person in. And Quinn had just gotten there. That was crazy, right? And that was his first start.
Yeah.
Right. This is college football. And these are Ohio State fans. That's how they act. They threw Kyle McCord all the way under the bus in 2023. His first getting wet to college football. Right. So, that's the pressure that happens when you play quarterback at Ohio State as well.
Well, at the same time, hold on now. You know that if Arch Manning goes 16 for 25 for 202 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick, but wins the game, that there's still going to be some of our own fans that will be on Twitter and just say, this dude is ass. Like he's not the Manning.
No, it's going to be like
insane.
It's going to be that we brought in this guy run Peyton Manning's plays, right? We brought in this playbook for Peyton Manning, plays like Cooper Manning, right? Like it's going to be fans like that. Like if you've seen that meme, but
his uncle beat Tom Brady. He couldn't do that. I mean, like it's going to be wild. It's gonna be every ridiculous. Saturday for the next couple of years at Arch Manning. It's going to be a wild, wild ride. I got one more question for you because I got to get Fanatic out of here. It is his birthday. We got to let him enjoy his day. But just
I'm hanging out. I'm good.
Chilling. All right.
Good. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I don't want to ask for a specific prediction because I don't know what all you have planned for your own content and dropping predictions and what you guys have going on inside Texas. But confidence level 1 through 10, where does it stand as far as us winning this game in Columbus on Saturday?
7 to win this game. So yeah, here's the thing, man. Like, I have a lot of questions about our offense. So like, we heard earlier in the camp, like, offense great. Now we're getting the more sober approaches, and that happened through camp. Like, wait for it to gel, right? When you hear wait for it to gel, that should be like, ting, why are we saying wait for it to gel, right? So I need the receivers are like all promise to me, right? But I need to see it. I need to see the physicality versus these DBs. I don't trust the offensive line to be disciplined or run the ball when you need to yet. So that's going to be a big factor with a new group. I'm not a big running back room guy. Like, I wanted a number 1 first through third round running back in the portal. I also wanted a tackle. And, neither one of those happened. I've been likely proven right on tackle. We'll see. I think we have good running backs. I don't know if we have great running backs. Maybe Christian Clark. But Sark has been able to force feed to 1,000 yards. It's the Iowa State formula where everyone thinks Iowa State's receivers are great, but really they just give them like 900 targets a season. So that's what I need to see. I have a lot of questions on the offense or the total offense. The only thing I feel good about is Arch, but if other things are breaking or discombobulated around him, then you're not going to look as good. So offense is a big question for me. They're returning only like 3 guys on defense, so we got to see, but I'm still at probably a 7, and some of this is weak analysis, right? Like, Sark does good in game 1s, that kind of stuff. So I have a little bit of the cheat analysis on it, but I generally do feel good about this. I feel sketchier on my season outlook. I feel better on Ohio State, which is kind of a weird tension.
I'd probably say I'm about an 8 or 8.5, and I lean 8.5. And
don't lie, bro. You're at a 10. You want to beat them by 20?
No. I'm not 10, but I'm really, really confident in this defense. We did have Jahdae Barron and Andrew Makuba, who they were playing like about as good as football as you can play in the pass game. I don't think that we're going to take a step back that much. If we do take a step back, it's not going to be that big of a step on the defensive backfield. You're going to also see the linebackers. Like, there is some legit depth at linebackers, and those linebackers are going to be really good. I think that I was really worried about the defensive tackles, going into before the portal. And I think that we really hammered that as well as we could have. Defensive end, I think that the edge position is, if there is any drop off in the defensive backfield, the edge position getting to the quarterback quicker is going to make up for that. I really have a lot of confidence in this defense. And then also, even more so, I think there has to be something to be said about the last game that Texas played, and a lot of these defenders played, was versus Ohio State. The last time they stepped off the football field was versus Ohio State. The last time Ohio State stepped off the football field, they were celebrating, and they're going to be watching their fans celebrating in 2025 or 2024 national championship. They're going to be watching, all the parade stuff before the game. Now, they're not going to be out there watching the parade, right? But they're going to hear it. They're going to hear the fans. They're going to see all the stuff up on the scoreboard pop up. They're going to hear the, in between, like in the little TV timeouts when they're doing those little, fan engagement things on the field. They're going to see that stuff. They're going to hear all national championship talk. Texas, I think every single time they hear that, it's just going to piss them off just a little bit more, right? And I question how hungry Ohio State is as compared to how hungry Texas is for a win.
Do we have 10 minutes, Steve? We didn't even talk about Ohio State's receiving options.
I got all this. I'm good.
I just want to break this down. This is an important factor.
I'm talking football on my birthday.
Okay, I was like
with friends.
We gotta talk about this because we can't do the live of Ohio State without this. So I feel good about the defense front 7. This doesn't mean I feel good or bad. I don't know about all the secondary stuff for this reason. We know Jeremiah Smith. It's boring to talk about him. Carnell Tate is a hell of a number 2. He's a number 1 most places. Yes. Brandon Ennis coming in at the slot, replacing Ibuka. Really good on crossers, good player they're excited for. Not a ton of reps last year, but guess what? It's Ohio State. And if you watch his limited snaps last year, he was running crossers. So that's nerve-wracking. I'll talk Claire in a second. So
Mylan Graham's going to be good too.
Yep, Bryson Rogers. So they have depth there too. So the tricky part is Grayson Littleton is likely to start in the slot, according to our projections. That's a true freshman, and he's going up against Brandon Ennis. Well, guess what? There's no law that the slot has to stay in the slot. Jeremiah Smith can get motion to the slot. Anybody can. So now you have a true freshman likely up against a receiver that I think could have gone straight to the NFL if they put Jeremiah Smith in the slot. That matters. So I don't know how you do it. Michael Taft, awesome in the run game, staying on top of stuff. You don't want Michael Taft running one-on-one with a receiver, okay?
No.
And so that's nerve-wracking. That's not how you're going to best maximize Taft. Derek Williams, we have to see, man. IT's kind of reporting that maybe Eric says it much nicer than this, but to me, like lost a step, right? Recovering from injury. Doesn't mean permanent loss of step, but recovering from injury. Can he run with those guys? I don't know. Jalen Gilbo doesn't have a problem with foot speed. He has a problem with like busting on double moves. So that's a thing. And then feel good. We expect Manny Muhammad to take a lead. But that matchup at nickel with a true freshman, I don't care what true freshman it is. We saw what Sark did to Caleb Downs as a phenom at safety. I don't care if you're a phenom. It's going to be tough. So these specific matchups, the secondary matchup on our defense versus their wide receivers is big. I feel really good about the front seven, though. And hopefully you can frustrate them in the run game. Their running backs are pretty good. It's not last year, but it's Bo Jackson, their third string, is the one that's going to be real good.
He's the one that's going to be good.
He's going to be real good, but we're not going to see that a bunch. So that's just a big part. You have to understand it's not just our secondary versus the receivers. You got to find the specific matchups, and some of those matchups are going to favor Ohio State. So that's a big part with the defense.
Also, how well can they – because Will Howard was – when you watch the All-22 film, Will Howard was making some excellent throws in some really small windows versus Texas. And not just that, but he was coming onto reads at the at the perfect time. Sayan's going to have to play a masterclass of a game if this Texas defense even plays close to the level that they played last time. And honestly, it's similar to what we said about the Austin Sarabeld. Look, if Sayan goes out there and has a great game versus Texas, you just got some great signs for your future of the Ohio State program.
Yep. It's going to be – that nickel spot is tricky, right? If you're there in 12 personnel, you go big nickel with Jelani, right? Someone asked, I thought Taft was potentially playing star. There he was repping at star earlier in camp. I know another outlet reported that he might be starting there. That's not inside Texas's position, so we'll see. But also you don't want Taft as a nickel. It's just not the skill set. I want a corner at the nickel. I don't like safety bodies at nickel. So that's going to be a big thing. We do have to see Grayson Littleton is about the only one that has corner that is a corner that'll play the spot. So that's going to be a massive aspect. Julian Sain gets the ball out really quick. He has a lightning release. And if you watch their spring game, he's doing one-step throws. Now, if you want to get the ball out quick, there's two ways. One is counterintuitive. It's to step and throw it. You can throw the fade quick too. You can step back and spot throw. So I doubt they're going to be doing full field progressions. How you can see Howard do it or whatever, been in the thing. Doesn't matter if Jeremiah Smith beats your corner off the rep. We got the safety tied up somewhere anyways. Now he's just running down a punt. So you can throw quick short and you can throw quick deep. You just can't throw quick middle. So there's some aspects here that I think are going to be interesting. If Texas passes this test, man, this is the best wide receiver core in the country. Outlook is bright because we know front seven, we know pass rush is going to be nice. Man, if we can cover with all these safety bodies on the field or a young corner in Littleton, well, Texas's outlook is going to go up to national championship level.
And Michael Taft's best attribute that he has is his knowledge of, football IQ. And they call him it's similar to Caleb Downs. He's like a coach on the field. and his ability to communicate. You want it's like a quarterback. If you're a safety, you have the entire field in front of you. You're going to be able to communicate a lot more effectively from, playing back at the boundary or free safety position as opposed to playing a nickel. You're just not going to see as much. So I value a lot of the communication that we get from Michael Taft playing, 10 yards back or beyond line of scrimmage.
Well, there's a comment here too and this gets to me, that we have 4 NFL DBs. Okay, DBs are not the same thing. So it's like there's safeties and corners. Okay, so if you have 2 good corners and just 2 good outside receivers, okay, we can win the matchup. They have NFL slots versus a safety, an NFL safety, but it doesn't matter. It's a safety.
That's still the matchup you want.
Exactly. Yeah, and so it's like that's the point. And also, we didn't talk Max Clare. So now they have an elite receiving tight end. So you have Grayson Littleton potentially on Smith if they move him in the slot. Guess what? Now a safety has to cover Clare. They're not going to be able to do that well either. So it's like, I don't care if they're an NFL player. It is about matchups. This game is about matchups. And you're going to struggle with any safety body type up against these type of receivers.
I fully agree. And I don't think we have a guy outside of Grayson that's really designed, or built to cover a slot fade in this situation. And that can be a quick death with this wide receiving core. And like you're saying, they're going to want to get the ball out quick. Julian has a very lightning release, as you mentioned, but I also think he's a really good processor, of the game. One of the, for his age, I think he's an extremely damn good processor of, the game and reading coverage, breaking through, going through the progressions. But, if Texas can muddy up that first read, what does it look like after that? They want to get the ball out quick. If we can jump a route or two, and not even talking about turnovers, but just get him to pause, let that pass rush get there a little bit more. And then also, what does his mind do after that? The first game for this young man, it's going to be a big moment, so you can say what you want about Arch Manning, but at the same time, I feel like there's just as much pressure on Julian Sayin to execute their particular game plan, because I don't think they're going to be super successful running the football, in just my opinion. But like y'all said, they've got the position the depth and talent out there, wide receiver and tight end, to really, really cause some issues, given the time, and as long as he's, breaking plays down, in the right ways.
And we got to remember, Brian Hartline allegedly is the play caller now. I say allegedly because Ryan Day, I still feel like there's going to be some elements of 2023 in there where Hartline was OC by name, but Ryan Day was the play caller. But apparently Brian Hartline's calling plays. Who built the receiver room? Brian Hartline. These are his guys. I do think he will design a lot of plays to get the ball in the hands of these guys, right? Whether it's bubble screens, jet sweeps. I think you're going to figure out creative ways, end arounds, things of that sort, just to, constant movement, to help Julian Sayin. I agree with Homer. I do not expect Julian Sayin to be making full field reads. I don't expect any quarterback in their first start in this scenario to be consistently making full field reads. If you're in that game, that's a losing game, right? So what can we do to get the ball into the hands of Brandon Ennis and the ball in the hands of Jeremiah Smith quickly, right? And then see what the defense is giving you, because they're getting data just like we're getting data. And when we start seeing that, or they start seeing, oh, Derek Williams is a little slow, or this person's a little slow, now they start hyper focusing, those counter moves off of whatever matchup that they're seeing. So that will be very, very key. That is a concern of mine as well. To Homer's point, this is the best receiving group in the country, including Max Clare. That's the tight end we wanted. Let's keep it a buck. But we got fortunate with injuries later. But Homer, am I wrong? Like, we were going after Max Clare first, and they got to him. So that's a lot. That's a balanced breakfast we're gonna have to deal with, which is even more important why we cannot allow them to run the football
at all.
If they start running the football, we're in trouble.
Well, and if you also look at last year too, like them running the football is really how we lost the game. Like Judkins making some really good runs and in the red zone.
Got dirty yards too.
Yeah, he's getting hit behind the line of scrimmage and he's going 10 yards into the end zone. Pissed me off. I remember I'm sitting right next to Ghost. We're like, okay, we're going in the half. No, wait, what?
Yeah, that's screen.
What's Henderson doing? No, get him. No, shit. right?
Man, you talk about Michael Taff and motivation. When you talk about the motivation stuff, Nash,
that's what I'm saying.
But that's also as good as this defense was. And I know a lot of people don't agree with me. I don't care. It's my opinion. As good as this defense was last year, they were not always clutch. And I'm talking about 2-minute drill, overtime, when I need an absolute stop. Now, there were times they did it, but there were times the Georgia overtime, they gave up a touchdown. 2-minute, not even 2-minute drill, just 9 seconds left. They're running a screen. Why are you running a screen there, Homer? Just to see what you can get, right? And they hit. They hit on that. You take that play away, you take away the Jack Sawyer thing. We held them to 14 points the rest of the football game.
So there's the Georgia one.
So you cannot give up those. Michael Taft coming back, that's the type of stuff. It's like our attention to detail has to be locked in every single snap because there's game breakers all over the field. You fall asleep. You could play great football 95% of the time, and Jeremiah Smith beats a blown coverage one time. It don't matter.
The margin is so limited here.
Blown coverage is blown coverage. I'd say like that Georgia game. That it's interesting that you say that because that is a great example of a clutch play. Like we had them, we have that Jade Barron. The play gets overturned. We go and we score the ball. Right. Stadium's back to life. We were dead, and then all of a sudden now it's getting loud. We kick the ball. If they make a stupid decision to try and return it, we get them at the 11. Mm-hmm. Right.
I was on that. That was where I was sitting on that side of the field.
Pumping now. Like Ohio Georgia fans like, oh my God, what's happening? Like and then we get them down to like I think they were on 3rd and 11. And it's like
they converted
we give up a 64-yard pass to
and then goes almost like a score. Was that Lucky Lawson?
And then that was the one where they hit it to Oscar Delp.
It was Delp.
Yeah, it was Oscar Delp. Yeah, they hit Oscar Delp, and then I also kind of in a little bit less similar scenario, but to the clutch point that you're talking about, man, Vanderbilt. I look at that Vanderbilt game and I'm like, God, like we could not put away Vanderbilt, right? And I understand there's something to be said about the offense, but I mean the defense too. I mean, what was that game? What was even the score of that game, right? Like that was a high scoring game on a defense that should not have even let that even get close to being that high score.
Well, the Ohio State too has been upset about Jeremiah Smith, disappearing in our game. And so they talk about like, look, we got concepts for too high. Like you're not just, it was pretty crazy that they didn't have concepts for too high, but they're not letting you, they're designing ways you can't take Jeremiah Smith out of it. And that's a big, big factor. And even if he does, guess what? 3 other weapons. But that's the big thing too, is all offseason they were upset that they haven't been able to get to their playmaker when teams just play too high. So that's going to be a trick too, man. And Hartline is the receiver. He'll do equal run, blah, blah, blah. He's going to favor pass. He's going to favor pass because that's how you think. And so he's going to favor pass, and they're going to be drawing stuff up too. So, the joke is like whatever, he had 2 yards or whatever it was. I don't expect that again. They'll move him to the slot. They'll do whatever they need to do because you can't let Jeremiah Smith be a non-factor.
Well, I'm hoping that they try to force it to him a little bit more than they did last year. And therefore, maybe he does have 64 yards, maybe even scores a touchdown, but maybe also a couple balls get picked off that are going his way because, they are putting a focus, which of course you put a focus to get that guy the ball. I mean, it's Jeremiah Smith. But like you said, you don't have to necessarily. You have ample weapons elsewhere between Claire, Tate, Ennis. Like you mentioned, Homer, that Ennis and Littleton matchup, particularly in the slot, obviously you can move whoever there. That's the first thing that I'm looking at when it comes to those two units being on the same side of the field. So a lot of ways this can play out, man. It's going to be fun to watch the chess match on both sides of the ball. But yeah, those receivers are terrifying, man. They really are.
I want to make one last point on that too, is the timely scoring of Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Remember, we didn't score on our first drive. They scored a touchdown on their very first drive. So now they're playing with margin, which means the more margin I play with, the more I can really let the defense. You have to understand, fans have to understand, because coaches do, but fans have to understand game flow and what type of game am I in. Ohio State understood, as long as I have the lead, I don't have to force anything. As long as I have the lead, I don't have to force anything.
They were patient.
And they were very patient.
Dude.
There's no need to force the ball to Jeremiah Smith. because I'm up, I'm managing this lead. I can punt, I play field position. Y'all aren't going to drive the ball consistently 80 yards on my defense. And because I did the work early and got my 7 early to get the lead, right? So we need to be mindful as Texas fans of not only scoring, but when we're scoring and getting margin in a game like this, right? Because we may be on the other end of this where we're up, even like Michigan last year, we're up like a couple scores, and now it feels like, hey, we can manage. We don't have to force anything, right? And we have a punter now, allegedly. So we should be able to really be able to force people to drive the field against our defense. But that's how Ohio State played us. They didn't have to force anything to Jeremiah Smith because they played with margin the whole game. And they scored at a timely manner. They scored at the beginning of the game. They scored right before the half. Yeah. And they scored at the end of the game.
It was all backbreakers.
Yeah, well, and so here's it's not just the fact that they scored. That was literally those 3 drives are the only time that they had offensive success in the game.
Yeah, that was the pace. They were just looking for the shot, man, and they got it.
Touchdown first drive, right? 8-play punt drive, 5 plays punt, 3 plays punt, 3 plays punt, 1 play touchdown. Obviously, you know what that one is. 4-play interception, 3-play punt, 4-play punt. And then the last drive that I'm not counting the 3 plays where they run off the clock as a drive.
Right.
The last drive they go down the field. And
that's why coaches highlight situational football. The first 5 minutes of the football game are important. The last 3-4 minutes of the before half are important.
The middle 8, yeah.
The middle 8, right? When you come out of half, because we all, Lord knows, we've had our questions about the third quarter when we come out.
Yeah.
Right. And then obviously the end of the game. The whole game matters, but those situational moments have gotten us, and we need to be mindful of that because that's how Ohio State was able to break through.
If you win those 3 crucial times, man, you're going to win the game.
No, agreed. Think about your point, Stephen, that you just make. That, I mean, go back to the loss with Washington. It's a game where you come out and you give up an immediate score. You fight back in the game. You win those last 4 minutes of the first half. You tie the game up on a Jaden Blue touchdown run, and then you come back out in the second half and you fumble the first 4 minutes, and you give all the momentum and the game, just the massive advantage. You have an opportunity to go score and take a lead there. Instead, you give them a short field. So those are things. Yeah, I agree with you. You need to clean up in the Steve Sarkeesian era a little bit, just a touch there. Alabama came out in Tuscaloosa after we had played a really strong first half and, kind of beat us up immediately there in that third quarter before it is a bit of a theme. So as much fun as it was listening to us talk about those kill shots, I'd prefer to go back 20 years, talk more about Vince and Lima Sweet. I'm just kidding. The past is the past. But, man, that was as painful of a loss being a Texas fan that, I can remember in quite some time, man, because it felt like, we play all things, we played a pretty even ball game. It's just a couple of the biggest plays in that game went Ohio State's favor. Tough watch, tough loss. So, yeah.
I was going to say, one last play on that, on to what Steven was talking about. And this is not the defense absolutely carried the team last year. And I'm expecting the defense to carry the team this year too. But they can still have a little bit of a clutch instinct, right? And get these clutch plays. Think about this. Ohio State, and this also signifies how important they knew it was to go and get a touchdown, not just a field goal. Ball's on the 34-yard line, 4th and 2. Will Howard has an 18-yard run.
Yeah, that was
They end up scoring on us. That's where we lost the game right there. Because guess what? If we go down,
you stop them on a 4th and 2.
We stop them on a 4th and 2. What we end up doing is we go and have the drive that we just did. We're running out the clock, and then we're sending out Will Stone out there. There's changes made. We're sending out Will Stone out there to go and kick a final field goal, right?
So what happens next?
In the national championship, right?
But that felt to me, man, Steve loves boxing. That felt to me like the better boxer that's letting you throw all your volume, and then as soon as you put your hands down, pop. That's what that game felt like. A lot of the instinct for fans is man, we were so close to winning it. Sure, stat-wise, but it just felt like every crucial moment, Ohio State won that moment. And it's the well-timed Howard run when you get them cornered. It's Quinn fumbling in the red zone. It's the screen of oh, you think we're going to half. It just felt like we were throwing a lot of volume, a lot of punches. If you don't know boxing, it looks like we're winning. But really, every time it mattered, Ohio State won. And so that's what was really kind of frustrating and painful about that game, because they won.
It's a great example of how stats can lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you look at Ghost, you brought up 20 years ago, right? That was a tight football game. He won 25-22. People, we romanticize everything now, but Vince Young went through peaks and valleys in that game. He threw 2 picks. We couldn't run the ball with our running backs, if y'all remember. His 70 yards rushing were like on 2 big-ass runs. The rest of it, they Hawk and them shut everything down, and Bobby Carpenter. And we scored. But that's what I talk about with Arch. And you brought up how Arch will be judged, Ghost. He's going to be judged on a separate rubric than the team. The team's going to do what the team does. Arch is going to be judged on his stats and whether or not he's the next Joe Burrow and all that. And it is what it is. Like, we just got to deal with that. We're going to have to listen to that. But what I'm looking at is, if it's one of those games like it was 20 years ago, and like you said, he's 16 for 25, he's a touchdown to pick. I don't care. It's 3rd and 7. Get it done. That's what happened with Vince Young. When it mattered, he made the play. And that's what we're looking at. I mean, the Iowa State, Kansas State game last week, we were all talking about in the group chat. Rocco Beck didn't play a perfect game, but when it was 4th and 3 and they gave him 2 plays, he made the right play call. He got them to ice the game, right? Kansas State wasn't able to get the ball back. That's the quarterback play I'm looking for in that moment. I don't need it. It's great if we go BTA and he's lighting it up. That's great. But the reality of the situation is it's more going to look ugly, and we're going to have to grind it out. But that's where I'm looking at from Arch, whether he uses his legs, what have you, to just make a play and to get us, advance the football.
Just make winning football play after winning football play, man, with the caveat that there will be a mistake or two likely, along the way. Maybe it doesn't result in a pick, but just a poor decision, poor throw, whatever it may be, man. But, yeah, I mean, you look at that game, like you said, Vince did everything. He did a couple of big runs early, a couple of, chunk plays to Billy Pittman in the passing game early, and then Ohio State adjusts and they keep us in a box. They turn him over, especially there in that second quarter. It got very, very ugly. Could have easily, stayed that way, but no, he continued to make plays. But the defense, man, that's one thing. I feel like we'd get this again, but if our offense does kind of sputter, if it does really kind of cause issue in this game, if we're giving up short, field after short field, you go back to that 0-5 game, man. Think about Ohio State and their starting field position and how many times they started in plus territory there, and our defense just stood tall, forcing field goal attempt after field goal attempt. That's just playing the game, man. Obviously things aren't looking, perfect for you in that moment, but, that's where I'm thinking this defense hopefully is ready to make be clutch in those moments, stand up clutch in the red zone, maybe after an Arch Manning turnover or after a guy like Jeremiah Smith, breaks a big one, and you just got to stand tall there and force 3. Because last year we weren't doing it, man. They converted every time they really had a big opportunity, and I don't think that's the path to victory here. You can't allow that again. But
can I be honest? I'm a little bit of a sicko here, but I kind of almost want our offense to go 3 and out at some point, just so we can see Boomeister just boom the ball. I want to see it. I just want to see a big punt. It's been a while. Since I've seen Dixon.
He can make. He's really a good situational punter. Like, there's clips of him versus BYU. And his offense totally screwed him and lost the game. But I watched 3 times. There were like 3 times where he was like, all right, let's win this game. His offense couldn't do it, but he was doing well-timed punts. The big thing is, like, we're getting on the defense for not being clutch at those moments. But so much of that is our offense stalls, man. Like, our defense shouldn't even be in those situations. Like,
no, they shouldn't.
The problem is, like, it shouldn't even be close. Like, Quinn's a post wide open, and Quinn wants to throw the screen every time. So it's like, it's that thing too, where the stalling of the offense in the third quarter puts the defense in these bad situations when really we should be up by 3 touchdowns if we just execute. So it's that thing too of, like, man, the offense just can't have these droughts, man.
I mean, perfect example, making your point, the A&M game last year, absolutely bodied them all over that football field through 2.5 quarters. Quinn, red zone turnover leads to an Aggie touchdown. You have another red zone turnover. And then you have a blocked punt. Next thing you know, you're fighting for your life on the goal line to stay up 2 scores there and to keep things from getting really, really weird at Kyle Field. And so, I think our defense definitely
maybe they weren't clutch in certain moments, but at times, they were asked to be clutch
That's
very
fair.
often, especially, they did turn over Georgia very late in that game. The whole maybe Jalen maybe he needed to lay a block down or not. There's a lot of discussion about that, but they had their moments. True. I mean,
and Arizona State,
Makuba pick late,
end the game.
Yeah.
Y'all touch on this, answer this for me. I'll let y'all get out of here. We've got one last comment. I want to more of an advantage. Our coaching staff, our coaching continuity, which I don't think is talked about enough from a national perspective here in this matchup, or Ohio State and the Buckeyes home field advantage there.
Coaching staff, coaching continuity, and we're on like an 11-game road streak. I like Texas better on the road than I like Texas at home, and so that's a big thing. Does it? The gambling world is like, it's gonna spot Ohio State 2.5 points on the line. That's what home field advantage means. But Sark does really good in those road game environments, and having coordinators this long. Now we did add Akina. There's a little less continuity in the secondary, but I'll always choose continuity over decibels in a stadium.
Are we still going to do hockey subs with Akina, or what's the deal there? What are you thinking?
I don't know. I mean, we sub anyways all the time. Like the third,
that's what we're doing.
We'll see, man. I mean, we do it a lot anyways. Even prior,
we do it a lot, but I just wonder if that's going to keep up with
I think you see that in the next 3 games. But Ohio State, man, I'm not trying to see what third string looks like versus Ohio State. Like at all.
I agree with you, Homer, because and it's something I actually heard. I was watching Cam Newton talk about, ironically, Julian saying his first start, and he's sitting there saying, "Look, them oohs and the ahs, they can turn to boos and They can turn to booze.
You saw it with Michigan. You get hush. You saw it with Georgia and us. You get hush. Like that awkward silence if you're losing at home is more painful than the cheers of when you're winning at home.
And Kirk Herbstreit was on College Game Day, sitting there, he was saying, I don't know if Ohio State, because keep in mind the last thing that Ohio State had done was they just choked a Michigan loss, right? And what is that, 3 or 4 losses in a row to Michigan? And
they haven't beat Michigan since COVID.
That's wild. That is literally wild. But he's sitting there, he's on College Game Day, the Ohio State probably #1 spokesperson is sitting there talking about, and you don't hear Kirk Herbstreit say, I know he said the cesspool stuff and Texas fans get on. He was right about that. There was some accuracy to be said about that, but he's sitting there talking about, I don't know if the Tennessee game versus Ohio State, if Ohio State goes 3 and out on the first drive and they're down in the first quarter, he's like, I don't know if our fans aren't going to boo Ryan Day out of the stadium. Well, these are some savage fans. Ohio State fans are.
They're nuts. And energy works both ways. Positive energy when you're winning, negative energy also affects you when you're losing. We know A&M's vaunted home field advantage that doesn't result in beating the spread, but that awkward silence and people twiddling their thumbs, that also sucks, because really this is a performance, and if you're a stand-up comedian, no one's laughing. That affects your performance. It's no different with athletes. They're on a stage in front of 100,000 people.
No, you're right, man. I mean, coaching matters a lot more. Obviously, like you just mentioned, A&M, that was going to be my example. I mean, if home field mattered too much, A&M might have a few more trophies in the old trophy case. Yeah.
I want to answer that question like this, because it's going to be my last statement before we sign off. I agree with Homer and Nash that the coaching staff is the advantage. And I'm going to answer this from a historical standpoint. So we talked about the 2005 game. Remember, the next year they came to Austin in 2006. And Nash opened this show up by saying this is like a reverse scenario. I feel as though that there's a scenario where it does play out in that manner as well, where if you remember, Ohio State came in, Troy Smith ended up winning the Heisman that year, but at that time there were still some questions, and they got up early, controlled the game, and that Colt McCoy in his second start was not ready for that. And Colt just got overwhelmed, right? We couldn't run the ball. as much as we wanted to. Jamal was okay, but they really, they ended up winning 24-7 in Austin, and they just punted. They played punt game. They managed the game and got out of there. Played pretty flawless. Honestly, Ohio State did that night. Even though both defenses were good. Texas had a good defense in 06, and so did Ohio State. So I do see a scenario where Julian Saint is just not ready for this game right now. Doesn't mean that he's a bad player. Doesn't mean anything else. It's just right now it's just too early for this type of game, just the same way it was for Colt McCoy in 2006 in his second start. So there could be a scenario like that, where it doesn't matter where you are. It's too much to handle with what's being thrown at you.
I mean, 5-star quarterbacks are I think I was going over the numbers. 5-star quarterbacks since 2021 are 4-8, and their first start being against a Power 4 team. And I mean, some of these games are against like an Arizona or an Illinois. Like I know Illinois is a lot.
Well, the biggest stat is the 0-18 stat.
What is that?
Starting quarterbacks in their first start against the AP number one overall team are 0-18 historically.
I like that stat. I like that.
I'm on board.
So we don't want to be 1-18.
Hey, I'm changing my 8.5 to a 10. You're right.
Before you go, Steve, I do want to hear what your confidence level was. We didn't get to that 1 through 10 on the dub.
No, I'm not a 10, Nash. I'm not a 10. I'm an 8, and I actually feel better about my 8 because you said 7, Homer, and that's high for you.
That's very high for me.
That's high for you.
Yeah.
So now I feel a lot better about my 8. I just think that we're going to be buttoned up offensively with what Sark has, coming into. And when I say buttoned up offensively, I'm not saying we're going to churn up a whole bunch of points, but we should be sharp enough to where we're not beating ourselves, moving the ball, play field position when we need to, just playing smart when we need to, and then just letting the defense set the tone. And can we get a non-offensive touchdown, please? Like something else in the action to help stuff out.
Special teams.
And then, special teams. I remember that Nick Saban and them went, 20 games in a row with a non-offensive touchdown. That's why they were always great in big games, because they always got something else to muck things up. So I'm looking at Texas I think Ohio State's going to be a really, really good team. I think we're lucky we're playing them right now versus in
game week 10.
Yeah. I think
that's well said, man. You put these two teams. These two teams being the playoffs, man. It's a whole different world, schematically, what they look like, maybe even personnel wise, depending on what side of the football you're looking at. My confidence level is very high. I'm going to tell you that. I don't want to get into the 9s. I'll go 8, 8.5. I've been saying it, man. I think Florida will be a more difficult opponent for Texas. Just talking about our next big one. And I say that because of, all the overturn on the coaching staff for Ohio State, Saban's first game, just a lot of inexperience. And I do think that the desire, the hunger, the retribution for what happened in the Cotton Bowl, I do think that matters. And I know it's a little cliche, but I do like Sarkeesian early in games or early in the year after all this time, to prep, even though he doesn't maybe necessarily know exactly what it looks like he's prepping for. It's just I think he'll be prepared for Matty P. But again, I'm normally lower than everybody else, and so it's kind of scary when I get up pretty high in my confidence. That's normally when Texas is taking it.
What am I missing?
Yeah. When Texas has taken an L in the last couple of years, that's normally when I'm at my most confident, and I hate that. But I will say this: I mean, I did have Ohio State beating us last year, and I mean, I think most of the country did. So. But all right, gentlemen, this was a lot of fun. Hour and 38 minutes of just straight Texas football talk. Didn't get anything too crazy in particular, just good conversation and fun. I would love to do this again, have you gentlemen come back on later in the year as we get into the meat of this schedule, man. But thank you for doing it. Fanatic, happy birthday to you. Go enjoy your day, brother.
Happy birthday, brother.
And tear it up, my guys.
Appreciate it, fellas.
Again, thanks for having for y'all having the time of your day on old Ghost and Friends right here. For y'all again that didn't hear, I'll be joining the Inside Texas boys, Nash, Homer, Eric, Justin, Ian, all those guys. Y'all go like and subscribe to all their stuff. But most importantly, man, get on these guys. If y'all don't know these guys, Fanatic, Nash, Texas Homer, check their stuff out. Twitter, YouTube, they're everywhere, man. And it's the time of the year to just absorb all of the Texas football content. So. But yeah, thanks for spending this time with us, man. Best of